Have you ever finished a simple task in just 2 hours, only to watch it sit in approval limbo for 3 weeks? It waits for 7 different signatures from people who barely glance at your work. By the time everyone finally signs off, the original purpose is often completely irrelevant. This isn't just a random bit of bad bureaucracy. It's the new normal. A recent study found 41% of these approval processes add zero value. They just add delay. Think about this. In 1950, for every person producing something tangible, there were 2 administrative workers. Today, that ratio is 1 to 8. For every doctor, teacher, or builder creating actual value, there are 8 people shuffling information around. If you've ever laid in bed at night, staring at the ceiling and questioning whether your job actually matters in the grand scheme of things, you are not alone. Nearly 40% of workers in developed countries secretly believe their jobs make no meaningful contribution to the world. None. Zero. And the evidence suggests many of them are right. What if a huge portion of our economy is built on work that doesn't need to exist? What if millions of people spend their entire adult lives shuffling digital papers from one folder to another, writing reports that nobody reads, and attending meetings that absolutely could have been emails? This isn't your fault. And recognizing that is the first step to finding real meaning in a system that seems designed to waste your precious time on this planet. Back in 1955, an economist named Cyril Northcote Parkinson published what became known as Parkinson's Law. He observed that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. But his research on bureaucracy revealed something deeper. Organizations naturally create unnecessary work and positions over time. Workplace researchers have since identified several categories of these hollow roles. See if any of these sound familiar. First, there are prestige enhancers. People hired just to make someone else look or feel important. Think of the multiple assistants shadowing an executive who could easily handle their own calendar. Second, competitive necessities. Jobs that only exist because other companies have them. Corporate lawyers, telemarketers, PR specialists. If your competitors have them, you feel like you need them, creating a wasteful arms race. Third, we have problem perpetuators. Employees whose entire purpose is to fix problems that shouldn't exist in the first place. They're endlessly patching over bad systems instead of fixing the root cause. Fourth, compliance creators. People who generate the illusion that something useful is happening. They produce reports nobody reads just to satisfy some obscure regulatory requirement. And finally, unnecessary supervisors. Middle managers who supervise people who don't need supervision or who just create more pointless work for their teams. According to surveys, up to half the workforce believes they fall into one of these categories. Half. So which industries are the worst offenders? Let's think about what humans actually need. Food, shelter, healthcare, education, energy, art, connection. Industries that directly produce these things have the most meaningful jobs. A farmer knows exactly what value they create. So does a nurse, a teacher, an electrician, a construction worker. But even in these essential industries, something strange has happened. The ratio of people doing the work to people administrating the work has completely flipped. Take healthcare. In 1970, America had about 7 doctors and nurses for every 1 healthcare administrator. Today, we have 10 administrators for every single doctor. That's a 70-fold increase in bureaucracy. The same thing has happened in education. Since 1970, administrative staff at universities has grown at 5 times the rate of professors, while tuition has skyrocketed. What are they all doing? Often managing compliance with other administrators' requirements. Finance is perhaps the most extreme example. While some financial services are useful, much of modern finance is just moving money in circles, skimming fees at each step, without creating anything of real value. The pattern is clear. The farther you get from directly creating something people need, the more likely your job is to be unnecessary. But if these jobs are so pointless, why do they exist? Why would profit-seeking companies pay people to do work that doesn't need to be done? It starts with organizational bloat. As companies grow, they get less efficient. Managers hire subordinates to justify their own positions, adding layers of meetings and reports. Then there are metrics. Companies can't always measure value, so they measure what they can. Hours worked, emails sent. This creates incentives for busy work. There are even corporate tax benefits in many countries that make it cheaper to hire people than to invest in efficiency. And then there's simple prestige. A large team signals importance. No consultant wants to admit they can solve a problem with 2 people when they can bill for 10. The result is a slow, creeping accumulation of roles that seem important but contribute little. But the most troubling part isn't the economic waste. It's what this does to the human spirit. We spend a third of our adult lives working. When that work feels pointless, the psychological damage is severe. Research shows that people in self-described meaningless jobs report higher rates of depression and anxiety than the unemployed. Think about that. In some ways, having no job is better for your mental health than having a job you know is pointless. That's because we are meaning-seeking creatures. We need to feel our efforts matter. The strongest predictor of job satisfaction isn't your salary. It's a sense of purpose. And one of the cruelest parts of a meaningless job is that you're still exhausted at the end of the day. Pretending to be busy, navigating office politics, maintaining the appearance of productivity. It's more draining than actual, productive work. Then comes the existential anxiety, the late nights wondering if you've wasted years on nothing. And worst of all is the shame. Society tells us our work defines our worth. When you secretly believe your work is worthless, you internalize that judgment. You feel like a fraud. But there is a way out. Even in this broken system, there are paths to meaning. First, redefine value creation for yourself. Meaning isn't just about changing the world. It's about genuinely helping others, even in small ways. The receptionist who makes a nervous patient feel comfortable in a doctor's office is creating real human value. Second, consider skilled trades. Electricians, plumbers, carpenters. They solve real problems every day. They go home knowing they fixed something that needed fixing. These jobs can't be outsourced, and they often pay very well. Third, focus on your sphere of influence. Even in a pointless organization, you can find ways to help your colleagues, to make a small process better, to reduce waste. Purpose often exists at the micro level, even when it's missing from the macro. Fourth, if you're stuck, find meaning outside of work. Volunteer. Create art. Be truly present with your family. Mentor someone. Your job does not have to be your only source of purpose. Remember, for most of human history, people worked to survive. They found meaning in their community, their faith, their family. This modern expectation that our career should fulfill our soul is a very new and very strange idea. The uncomfortable truth is that our economy has created millions of jobs that don't need to exist. This isn't a conspiracy. It's just an unintended consequence of how modern organizations work. But realizing this is liberating. If your job feels meaningless, it's not a reflection on you. It's a structural problem. And knowing that means you have options. You can seek out work that matters. You can create small pockets of value where you are. Or you can find profound purpose completely separate from how you earn a paycheck. We can and should push for an economy that wastes less human potential. One that values real contribution over the mere appearance of busyness. Because a world where more people wake up excited to make a real difference is not just more productive, it's more human. If this video helped you understand why so many modern jobs feel meaningless and how to find real purpose in your work, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the workplace issues affecting our daily lives. Have you found meaning in a seemingly pointless job? Or did you escape to more fulfilling work? Share your experience in the comments below. Your story matters and others might learn from your journey. Thanks for watching.